Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
The motion carries.
That's why you're all the way down there.
I know.
And I like the new glasses.
Okay, so we have two resolutions tonight. Shaheen, do you have them?
Is this for the special?
Yes.
Yep, but they're on the website.
Okay, so the first one, authorizing the payment to National Grid. Can you post that, please? No? There you go. So both of these resolutions are relate to the city, the renovation of the city hall. And in terms of National Grid, they don't do any work without getting paid up front. So I don't think there's much more to say about it. Can I have an introduction?
I'll introduce.
Whoa, what a chorus.
Wait to the.
Who was first?
That was.
Ryan, second, Arthur. Any questions?
I have a question. So we're gonna sign the contract K, and then they're gonna tell us the scheduled date. When we're dealing with utility companies, they're impossible. They're so backed up. What happens, Michael's not here, but do we
No,
have,
but Peter should be able to answer
do
that.
we have an
Peter,
idea about time frame?
can you hear that question, Peter?
Yes, time frame to complete. Once they receive the check from the city, they will schedule it between 4 and 6 weeks to start the work.
Thank you. A roll call vote, please, Tracy.
Councilmember Anthony.
Aye.
Descaludi.
Aye.
Frick.
Aye.
Harris.
Aye.
Moranti.
Aye.
Roney.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Wallace.
Aye.
President Pietro.
Aye.
Carried.
The next resolution is to pay the laboratory that's doing the asbestos abatement sampling and analysis. Ryan introduced, Arthur second. Any questions?
I have a question.
Ryan.
Page 5. It says client responsibilities, and it says that we're supposed to be providing the contamination facilities and personal protective equipment. What are the contamination facilities necessary?
I think, Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the other contractor who's doing that presently?
So there's, when you do asbestos abatement, there's two components to it. One is the first report that identifies where the asbestos is in the building. And then the second one is to identify a contractor. The actual contractor that is doing the removal of the asbestos is called Sullivan Contracting. They have a direct contract with our general contractor, VMJR companies. They work for them directly as part of the $669,000 bid that we received. The monitoring, however, is on us. It's on the city. So this monitoring firm basically makes sure that the air is clear when they're working outside. So we know the actual levels of asbestos if it escapes. They do everything in accordance with federal regulations, and they contain everything. So this is just a precautionary requirement implemented by the federal government and New York State to monitor the fact that there is abatement going on in such that it's in safe, that the area is safe where the work is being conducted.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
Okay.
A roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Anthony.
Aye.
Descaludi.
Aye.
Frick.
Aye.
Harris.
Aye.
Moranti.
Aye.
Roney.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Wallace.
I guess so.
President Pietro.
Aye.
Carried.
Okay, that's pretty much it for the special meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting? Arthur, second.
I'll second.
Ryan, second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, stay on. We're gonna start the regular meeting in about 4 minutes, so.
It's probably the seniors going to say that real such imposed. Yep.
Okay. Informal meeting. Copy of draft minutes of the February 21st meeting have been posted on the city website. Committee reports have also been posted on the city website. Time for reports, and our representative from fire is here. You want to go ahead so they can, have an hour?
Kind of like turn everything. This whole world's colliding for you?
Huh?
This whole world's colliding.
Ah, yes, crazy. Anyway. Sean couldn't be here tonight. He's stuck at work and Mike's taking care of fire school. So, we have, for the month of February, we had 37 calls for service, 2 building fires, 2 gas leaks, 13 service calls, which is water problems, unauthorized illegal burning, and cover assignments for other agencies. 4 good intent calls and 16 false alarms for a total of 37 for the month. And as of today, we are at 87 calls for the year. Halfway through, not even halfway through March. So, you know, we're on track to 400 again. Wonderful. So that's it for the report for the calls. I wanted to bring up again and maybe have a little more discussion about what we talked about last month with the vote. I asked around, looked around, did some research for more grant money. It's not there, except for what we've already put in for 4 years,
Right.
and been denied every time. Which also, again, makes the price of the vote absolutely ridiculous. So I don't, short of, you know, we're running into now, we wait much longer, we're gonna miss this for 2 more summers and not have a vote. You know, I pulled up last year, not even a year ago, the council approved $175,000 for the purchase of a boat. That was in May, it was May 31st of 2022. With what the 9 team has and what we can contribute, you know, we're almost there. We're maybe a little bit over. We don't have the final numbers for this year. I don't know if the youth department has gotten them yet, for the polar plunge.
56,000 something.
Yeah, I think it was over 56,000 in donations. I know it does cost a little bit with fees and stuff like that. So we don't have the total breakdown for each department yet. Like I said last month, I don't also want to spend all of that on our part. We want to leave some money available. They haven't bought equipment, and this will be year 3, knowing that this boat project was gonna come at some point. And there is money there that they've been saving for 2 years, so I don't know what we can do if we can tap into the general fund temporarily. You know, I know you said the buildings are being sold. There's no money up front at time of sign. There might be 20% at time of signing, and then it's throughout the phase.
Is there any lease option at all, like where we could like lease and then get into it to use monies that are on hand?
No, I believe it's
It's an insurance issue.
I believe it's 20% at time of signing. 30% when they begin, or another 20%.
And then on delivery.
And then when the motors are delivered to them, because the motors are a large part of it, there's 2 of them and they're very expensive. And then the rest is delivery. It's broken up between 20 and 30% over this couple of payments that they require. And it's still a year bill. And it was 207,035 was the price from the manufacturer.
Okay. Crystal, are we still on, schedule for the April 3rd auctions?
No,
Really?
Tracy said that there was not gonna be enough time for noticing that, so we need another date.
Okay. So we'll probably be towards the end of, April.
Yeah, that would be a safe bet.
Okay. So at that time, we'll see how we stand with the sale of the buildings.
Right.
We should make it a very easy and, proposition to do this. Otherwise, we'll figure out another way to do it.
And like I said, and as far as the truck goes, we also talked about, we're probably about 2 months from presenting that to everybody as well. We did our last meeting 3 weeks ago, and that's back in the engineer's hands right now to get us back to where we are. And now we're minor, we want a different light here and move this light there kind of stuff. We're done with the main body of it. Got it down to the size we want. Now it's just all minuscule little stuff, moving this here and moving that there. So that's where we are with that. So we're still probably June or July for that.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. Any questions from the council?
What's our time frame to make sure it stays within that year? To make this decision?
The boat, they'll have to go back. I'll have to go back to them for a price once we go. That was, I believe, a 30-day.
That's the quote right now,
The
right?
quote was 30 days, which is probably up this week because I got it like the day of the last informal meeting. So it's probably up today. I can't see a humongous thing, but they're still stuck about a year.
Yeah.
Especially for public service. They'll backtrack other boats to pump out public service boats before. And again, it comes down to parts. We all know what we're dealing with there, so.
Any other questions for council? Public? Okay, thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Next up is Liz York.
Excuse me, Tom, I just wanted to let you know that I'm here.
I can see that, Margaret, thank you.
Oh, sorry. I didn't think there'd be so many people here with the weather warning, so I didn't print out.
It's on the screen too.
Okay.
You can give them mine. I don't even-
Yeah, you
Wow.
can hand it.
Yeah, I read.
Thank you.
Where else? Whoa. We appreciate your effort.
Yeah, no, somebody.
I was being dramatic. I don't know. Come on, you can't all say no. All right, I'll get nice and close because I know you're just telling me to get closer. All right.
Actually, your head is no longer in the screen.
Yeah, but you won't.
Oh, perfect, right there, this is good.
Okay. Hello. Here's my March 2023 report. So we finished up our winter programming and our spring programming is in full swing. We're doing art classes, cooking classes, boxing classes, circus classes, and harvesting classes with Claremont right now. We're also going to partner with Hudson Hall to offer our students the opportunity to join a musical theater improv class, the Hudson Community Choir, and a storytelling through movement class at Hudson Hall. And Sound Lab will also be returning to work with both our after-school program and our teen program. The art classes continue with the Art School of Columbia County. They have professional artists come and teach those classes. They take their time to work with the kids using different mediums. They give them the space to express themselves creatively and uniquely while also learning new art skills and techniques. And so are two of our participants there. Just gonna offer them. The cooking classes are still happening with Sylvia Center. So if you'll remember, in the beginning of the year, they were working with our 9 to 12-year-olds. They're now working with our 5 to 8-year-olds, which is a whole new set of challenges for them. But the kids are learning how to prepare healthy snacks and meals, and then they get to enjoy the treats that they've made, and they're also learning like kitchen and knife skills and that kind of stuff. So we're also still doing boxing. The students will leave each Wednesday and go to Warren Dance on Warren Street, and they'll join the fitness class and boxing class. It's run collaboratively by fitness instructors, Rebecca Civic and James King, and then with boxing instructor Todd Smith. They warm up with physical fitness activities. They're doing like push-ups, stretches. They're more than I
Two of
do.
the best, two of the best.
And then they do the boxing training, and the kids really love it. So. And I also have Bindle Stiff Circus. They're continuing to join us weekly. They're building on the skills that the students have been learning all year. And so it's really cool to watch the kids develop. So some of them start on the stilts, like you see the one younger kid with the little cups, and then they graduate to the bigger stilts. And it's just fun watching them learn that. And Bindle Stiff is always really great. Summer camp, it's my next slide. So we opened registration for summer camp last month. When I made this on Friday, we've had 40 kids already registered. People are registering slowly as the time goes on. We're also doing a few events to help get families aware of what's going on. So you can access the application on our website, or you can scan this QR code that'll be on the city website now. It's also on our website. And then we have these up at the front desk too. And so we have this for registration for summer camp, or if you want to apply to work with us either at the center or as a counselor or as a lifeguard. It's all pretty quick. You just scan it with the QR code and it takes you right to the page you need to be at. That's really helpful for us because everything has to be digitally uploaded anyway. So if we can get as many families as possible doing it that way, that's gonna be really helpful. So if a family needs to come in, we're allowing them to use our computers and our laptops. And we're also going to be at the teacher report card night in the end of the month at MC Smith, and we'll have these codes with us and some extra iPads and stuff, so everyone can sign up there as well. And so any questions about summer camp, you guys can reach us at the center, 828-0017, or info@cityofhudsonyouth.org. Rewilding is going to start back up at Oakdale soon. I know that the weather today doesn't make it seem like that, but it is close. So April 29th is the first date that we have for our 2 spring events. The rain date will be the 30th. The event will start at 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. at the pavilion as usual. We'll have snacks. We'll be guided by the volunteers who will teach us about what we're going to do. We're going to be removing more invasive species and clearing spaces to do some tree planting for the second event. So. Some community engagement stuff. Last month, Calvin talked to you guys about the opportunity we had from Letterbox Farms and Glenwood and the Food Sovereignty Fund, the grant that we got from them. We were able to provide food to 30 families with the food that was provided to us by them and the food bank. And we have a little bit more still in the freezer. So if you know anybody who needs more or who didn't get any last time, they can reach out to us. We're also really excited that this is going to continue. In the spring, we're going to renew the contract with Letterbox, and the grant's going to be renewed, and we're going to have the opportunity to distribute meat throughout the season as well, from spring on again until next winter. We do get a lot of local farms that share their resources with us. You know, there's so many farms in the area, and they have a surplus of vegetable and produce, and sometimes, you know, meat as well, and they bring that to us a lot. We were able to give away a lot last year, and not a very structured form, just because we weren't sure when it was coming. But we're hopeful that this year we'll be able to continue with that and maybe do a little bit more structured so families can kind of depend on when that's coming. So we'll have more information on that as it develops, but at the very least, we'll have it every now and then. We hope to have it on a regular schedule. So I touched on this. The report card night, we're going to be at that on Wednesday, the 29th from 5:30 to 7:30. We're going to have our tables there. So you can sign up. You can also learn about all the programming we offer. We're also going to have a table there for our bike co-op, which is expanding this spring, and I'll have more information about that in the next meeting. But they're hoping to open up a little earlier this year than they did last year, get some more engagement, do like family rides as well as children's bike classes and stuff like that. So it'll be a great opportunity to meet the mechanics that are there. We're also going to have an opportunity for a couple of junior mechanics to work with them. So if you know any kids who are really into bikes, mechanics, that kind of stuff, it is like an apprenticeship working with these mechanics. They are really skilled and really knowledgeable. So it could be the start to a career if someone is interested. And then my last bit of info is we've got some employment opportunities. We've already started hiring for our lifeguards and counselors for the summer. We always need more lifeguards. We will train lifeguards. We will give lifeguards all the hours they want. We want to be open for the community. We have about half a dozen guards who have already been willing to come back, but again, we will provide that training. We will help get someone set up. And then if you know a young person looking to get into the workforce, this is a great opportunity because there's other local areas that also need lifeguards. The school need lifeguards during the school year, so it could be something that they are able to do year round, which is really nice. And lifeguards have historically been one of the highest paying summer jobs that teenagers can get, so. And then we're also hiring a couple full-time positions at the center. We are still looking for a secretary. And we're looking for a food nutrition coordinator. Those are both full-time civil service positions. So if you know anyone who's interested in those, just have them email me at director@cityofhudsonyouth.org, and I can give them some more information.
Thank you, Liz. Questions from the council?
I know that, oh, sorry. No, I know that they started already with the summer program. Just, for any organization, kids 14, is it 14 to 18?
Oh, the workforce?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
workforce program. I got some applications already, if needed, but I know they usually reach out to other organizations as well, right?
Yeah, workforce usually provides us with about 3 or 4 young workers, and so
Okay.
some of them are so young that they don't count in our ratio of caregivers, but we like to have them there, train them. A lot of our workforce employees have actually stayed with us after workforce and become youth center employees, so it's really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good organization.
Any other council members? Dominic?
Liz, she said there's a camp application is hard paper too, or it's just online?
Right now, it's just online. So we're trying to help get that out to everybody as much as we can, so that because it has to be online eventually, so if we get a bunch of paper copies, we have to spend our time uploading them. So.
Is there a way to also, I mean, you said registrations, right? Is there a way to do it? I know there's a community room at Crosswinds, Bliss, and maybe the library to do registration nights there.
Yeah, we can put up the flyer too. We have a flyer that has it on the QR code on it as well. So it's, yeah, thank you for that.
And then obviously the WSI, PSI, you're still gonna need, right?
Yes, we still do not have a WSI or PSI. Yeah, yes, those things. We don't have those. But we do, I'm trying to work with someone out of Albany who can provide that training. I haven't gotten an affirmative from them that they're available, but I know that if we can get that class lined up, it's not just our camp that's gonna need it. I know the last year's meeting for the camp directors that I had, everybody needs it. So we're still trying really hard. So if somebody's interested, that position actually gets to teach swimming lessons and gets paid at a higher rate than everybody else and would be in high demand in the county. So if you know anyone who's really into swimming.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Vicky?
Yes, about these full-time positions, can we ask how much the pay is? Is it like a salary or per hour?
They're hourly employees. I don't have it off the top of my head. They're in the CWA contract, so it is a.
Are they the same? Do you know?
The food and nutrition coordinator is a higher wage than the secretary.
Okay. And they're going to be responsible for preparing the food too?
Yes, so our food and nutrition coordinator that's currently working with us needs to move on for personal reasons, but they've done a really good job setting it up. They do food acquisition, not just from the grocery store and the food bank, but also from local farms. They create the menu. They help prepare the food for both after school and teen. And they help with some paperwork and making sure that we're, keeping track of everything correctly. And they get to go on some of the field trips and do some of the programs as well that are food related. So it's a pretty cool job. Yeah.
Do they oversee the camp food program that you get from
They
the
help to
school?
oversee it, yeah. So last year they were doing the running back and forth and making sure we're getting it on time and tracking it correctly. So they do have full-time season, like year-round employment. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, any more council, questions from the council? The public, I have a question from Bill, you have a question?
Yeah, Liz, I have a few questions about a couple of things at Oakdale that are of concern to me. First is, I'm wondering who put the, or who's behind the aerators that are in the lake?
I spoke about that a couple meetings ago. It was the
Friends of Oakdale.
Friends of Oakdale Lake working with the CLC.
So who ultimately makes the decision to turn them on in the winter time or anytime really? I mean, do you leave it up to them to decide?
They're on year round so that we can really cut back on all the growth that happens in the summer and all that algae. So the intention is year round, and I'm sure they'll reevaluate it after a while and see how it's going.
I mean, isn't there any concern that because they're on in the winter time,
You got your questions answered.
the ice is thinner so that there's no ice fishing on the lake, there's no skating on the lake, there's no walking on the lake in the wintertime when ice is thick?
I mean, currently there's not supposed to be anyone on the ice anyway, so it wasn't a priority of concern.
Next question.
Across from the beach, DPW ripped up a bunch of turf over there, and as you know, when they were doing the digging out, the dredging, and they replaced the soil with something that looks like grass is not going to grow on. I'm wondering if you're aware of that?
Yeah, it's actually a sand we put in there to make it more of a friendly space for camp and for having a little bit more of a beachfront area on that side. So people can like comfortably picnic and fish from there.
So when did the park just become the park for the youth center and less of a park for the general public? Because if you walk there now and it's wet, it's a soggy mess. There used to be grass there. So I guess I'm wondering why it wasn't resodded for grass.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons is there's a lot of grass there, not anyone to maintain it. And I know that you also don't like it when the grass gets long. So that's one less area of long grass. But we're just trying to do the best we can for the park and meet the need of as many people in the community as we can.
So who made the decision not to resod that area?
Next question.
Who made the decision, Liz?
Next question.
No more questions.
Okay,
I'm not going
good.
to answer them anyway.
Okay, moving right along. Thank you, Liz.
That's it.
Yep.
Thank you, Liz.
Seniors, Mia couldn't make it tonight. She had an emergency. So we're going to move to the treasurer.
Hello, everybody. Mine's going to be short and sweet as well for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is we've been decamped from our office for a while and had to rebuild everything up in a new space. So bear with me. I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
Okay, so few different things. This continues to look at the 2022 major revenues and parking and permits. There's really no change from last time we looked at them because until we finalize what we call the chargebacks and enter them, the year-to-date numbers won't change. We can charge back expenses, but you can't charge back revenue because you have to reflect it when the cash actually comes in. So we have to handle that in a manual way with the general ledger system. So those numbers should all change. They should all increase to some extent, and we should have a much better sense of that next month. But as you can see, we beat the budget in both building permits and plumbing permits, as well as pretty much most of the parking revenues. So we're comfortable with that. And compared to our 2023 budget, they look pretty good as well. I do have a couple of updates on this because even though they have not technically been charged back yet, I do know what the exact numbers are. And that was for sales tax. We did get our fourth contribution. It comes in, it came in, I think, a week or two ago. It will be charged back as revenue to 2022, but it was approximately $667,000, I think. That's just for one quarter, which was an excellent response. So if you could see, our 2022 budget was 2.3 million, and we actually brought in 2.4 million. So a 5% increase over what we estimated. And that's equivalent to an approximately $100,000. So that's good news. Also hopefully makes the 2023 budget number look reasonable, but we'll certainly have a better sense of that once we get the next quarter in, because there's a lot of discussions obviously back and forth about whether sales tax is going to start to drop with the change in the economy and all of that. So that's why we thought relatively conservative for 2023, but as soon as we get the next quarter, I will let you know. No change to mortgage tax. We did end up beating that by about 17%. We got 263,000. We had forecast 225. And lodging tax, we were very conservative in lodging tax for 2022, given the drop off that we had seen because of COVID and all of those things. So 2021 was a really low number. 2022 looked aggressive compared to 2021, but not aggressive compared to other numbers. As you can see, at this point, we're at about 420,000 in lodging tax, and that's just through November. So we have another month to go. It's actually another 3 months to go because there's a chargeback in, well, anyway, we get some money this year as well that gets charged back to last year for lodging tax because lodging tax is filed on the same schedule as sales tax, which is not calendar year. All right, that was a lot. Okay, some resolutions that will come out of my office. I believe you have 2 of them in hand now, and the other 2 you will see before the end of this week. The ones that you don't have are ones for encumbrances, and that's just the second follow-up to the ones we had last month for all the other accounts, grants, et cetera, and so forth that need to be carried over to 2023. Another one that you're going to see, and this is directly related to the special meeting you just had, which is we're going to put together a change order authorization for the City Hall capital plan. And this is something that we did for the police and courts building as well. And what its intent is to do is to say, hey, it's construction. We've got vendors. We all know things happen. There's always change orders. If we have to call a special meeting every single time there's a $5,000 change order on a capital project, that's not going to be manageable. So what we did for the police and courts building is basically said that, or what we're going to do in this case, which is very similar, any change order of $20,000 or more would still have to come to the council. Any change order between 10,000 and 20,000 just would require to get BEA sign off before it's approved. And then anything under 10,000 would be at the commissioner's discretion. And all of those ranges, all it does is determine how the authority can be finalized to let the mayor sign any of those change orders. If it was a new vendor, it would have to come before the council as well. This is only, change orders to existing contracts within dollar limits for the vendors at hand. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, great. The 2 that I believe you have in front of you now, one is to reallocate school tax paid on a property that city owns. You would have seen this resolution at some point last year because last year, so basically we own 98 Paddock Place, but we foreclosed on it, but then the owner is still living there and is currently now under eviction proceeds, but we went through multiple years of foreclosure. In any case, because the property on the assessment roll is in the city's name, the school tax bill came to the city to pay with its other properties. It owns properties, in Claverick and other places, mostly water oriented, like where the reserve is and all those places. So it just got added to the pile of Hudson owned properties, school tax bills, and got paid. And so we discovered last year was paid last year, but we researched a little more and found out the 2 prior years had been paid as well. So all this resolution does is say, hey, the water fund paid this bill by mistake. What should have happened is it should have just been added to the existing tax bill for that property and becomes part of the tax lien. So the resolution just says, hey, allow the treasurer's office to put that tax on the 98 Paddock property and also allow it to reimburse the water fund for the money it came out of pocket. And the last one is very simple. Housing Justice Director, her budget didn't really have anything included for other expense. HCDPA and the Housing Trust Fund, who oversees those funds, have identified that they should make $5,000 available for the Justice Department's various and sundry expenses. It's going to basically be handled through the budget, the way that her salary is, and through the voucher approval process. Since technically everything is in the city's name at this point. So that's just a budgeted amendment to address that. One of the reasons this report is a little sparse is because this happened to be the same day that the auditors were in-house. So we were spending pretty much most of the day finding things that they were requesting. So that's great news because it means we are very close to getting that audit completed. But I will point out that that's the 2021 audit, not the 2022 one, which hasn't even begun. And actually, we talked about the next one we've talked about before about getting rid of the trust fund. The AUD, which is the first reporting that we have to do for the prior year to the state, is due 5/1/2023. So by, as I kind of said before, by next month, I should have be able to give you a much better sort of close to real idea of how 2022 came in. Ban payoff, this is something I want to raise everybody's attention to. If you remember, we took out about $8 million in ban, which are bond anticipation notes to cover a whole bunch of different things, lending money for the DRI projects, lending money to a water project, a sewer project, most of which are either being reimbursed in part or in full by grants. So this is like, it'd be something that ordinarily, we just do like an interfund loan, like General would, as you see all the time, General is going to loan the capital budget money. This was way too much money. So we actually had to go out and borrow it in order to have enough money to pay off the things in the interim. While we budgeted so when you pay off the bans, you also have to pay off the interest that accrued in the bans. And so while we budget for that, there is another component where if you've had a ban for 2 years or more, you have to start paying down a small amount of the principal. And I do not believe that that was included in the 2023 budget. So that may be a budget amendment that you will see shortly. I just met with our financial advisors for the bond market 2 or 3 days ago. So we're working on clearing that up. Yeah, the only thing of note under operational really is that, our books won't be closed until June. They never are. But as soon as they are, we should have an independent audit started. The last one that we brought on board, which is Bonadio, this was their last term under their contract. So we need to do an RFP. Last year, or the last time it was done, it was handled by the Finance Committee. So I don't know how you all would like to handle that going forward. And I will leave that to you.
Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, the last bullet point thing is like, this is literally, if you pull up our revenues and expenditures just for the general fund today, if you pull up what's in the GL today, before all the adjustments we're going to have to make, it shows expenditures as about $500,000 less than revenues. I know there's at least 2 significant adjustments to revenue. One is taking it down by 600,000, but the other one's increasing it by almost the exact same amount. So it will be interesting to see once we get all the final chargebacks in how close it comes. But I think it's looking cautiously optimistic for an okay 2022. That's all I have.
Thank you, Heather. Any questions from council members? Dominic?
Heather, the $5,000 budget amendment, did that come through the BEA?
No, did I mute myself already or am I here?
We can hear you.
Okay, no, that is actually being funded by the Housing Trust Fund. So, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess to your point, it probably should be signed off on the BEA either before or after the council votes on it, because it is technically an adjustment to the budget. So I can't remember if the resolution has signatures for the BEA on it or not, but if not, I can modify that.
Because I don't, Ryan, catch me if I'm wrong, I don't remember that coming through HCD yet as a resolution, right?
It would have been in theory, it should have been posted online because it was sent out a week ago, but if it wasn't,
I don't remember voting on that, and
no voting on it. The resolution is coming forward to you
for the next meeting.
for the next meeting, correct?
So how would we vote on what was, so basically it was just uploaded early then, I think is what Dominic was asking?
Yeah,
Well,
I
next-
wrote it.
Next month, right?
Yeah, it was online for today's agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the HCDPA hasn't approved it yet. The last thing we discussed about any budgeting was with regard to making sure that we followed the formal policies. Michelle outlined that what you had suggested about kind of setting a threshold and running it in the way that reimbursements work for other areas of the city was key, but no action was taken on behalf of HCDPA on it.
It doesn't approve by the. it doesn't need approval
Okay,
by-
well, I would ask that, because, I basically get my information through Michelle, but it would be great if, if there's a decision to be made that, impacts the city budget, it would be good to know, to find out what the status of that is. So I'm not sure how we can improve the communications between the decisions that the HCDPA board are making that have, because the majority of them don't impact us at all, but for the ones like that do, it would be.
No, absolutely. I guess that, we can figure out how to improve the communication. My point is that it has not even been, this document was never put in front of that board. So what Dominic is saying is we'll consider it at our next meeting and then we can move forward with it.
Right, so
For the
right now,
council.
we don't need to move it to
Cart before
formal
horse.
until after. we-
Okay. Yeah, I was told that the board was already aware of it and that they were voting on it at the last meeting. So yeah, we probably need to get clarification better.
There was no vote, so it'll be at the next meeting.
And when is the next meeting?
Next month.
Correct.
Okay, so we'll take it. So President DiPietro will have to take it off of the agenda for this month then.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for Heather?
I guess just one, how did we miss the paying the 2 years and then having to go back retroactively to not pay the school taxes for the person in foreclosure?
Wait, are those two different questions?
No, it's the same question. If this Paddock Place foreclosure that we had, for you were talking about a forensic audit that basically found that we paid the school taxes for that building in the past, how did we
Yes.
miss?
Because, okay, so the city acquired the property through foreclosure, right? We usually take when we get the properties, then we auction them and then we don't have properties generally. In this case, after we foreclosed on the property, after it went to court, after the city was awarded title and after the deed was changed over to the city's name, the resident applied for bankruptcy.
Oh, jeez.
And even though it was after all of that, they were allowed to file their bankruptcy and a stay was put on the whole thing, which means the city can't take any action in any way, shape, or form. So that started, they filed bankruptcy. They, in relatively short order, did not meet their bankruptcy requirements, and their, bankruptcy trustee was basically like, yep, nope, they're done. Then the COVID hit. And then we couldn't evict anybody because it was COVID, and that went on for a year and a half or two. So as soon as the last eviction, I'm giving you the background so you can understand the confusion. So given, basically when the last, government order or governor order, whatever you call those things, once you were allowed to evict people, we immediately started eviction proceedings. They have been filed and they have been served. And that was a few months ago at this point. And I was told at the time it could take anywhere from 6 to 9 months because they're so backed up with evictions in the sheriff's office. So that's to say that it's been a very confusing thing. The reality is that almost without exception, the only properties that get school tax bills are the properties that the city owns that are taxable, like I said before. Then most of them, I think pretty much all of them are in the water fund. So it's the different places that the city owns that involve water. So traditionally, the school tax bills come to whoever's listed as owning the property. So in this case, the school tax bill came listed to owner of City of Hudson. It got put with all the other City of Hudson properties and got paid as usual. And, it was a combination of it just, fit into that pile of stuff and got paid. And a combination of the fact that the account clerk in DPW at that time was relatively new, and probably maybe if it had been the prior one, they might have said, oh, wait, this is a new address. This is not one I remember paying every year, but it didn't happen.
Okay.
So
it fell through the cracks. All right.
Yeah.
And then we're realizing the full value back of what we paid. We're getting reimbursed for the full thing.
Well, we will. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, in 2021, we paid $2,000 of school tax and the water fund paid it. What we're going to do is we're going to add an additional $2,000 school tax bill onto the property tax bill. So it becomes part of the property tax bill. And then we're going to reimburse the water fund for the money that they came out of pocket for it.
Perfect. Nick, there's your boat money.
And they and just so you know, DPW has a big sign up on their wall saying, don't pay Paddock Place school taxes. So I don't think it's going to happen again.
Heather, what about the liability, like fire or something, since it is a city property? Are we paying any kind of liability?
I would have to double check with the mayor's office to see. Usually what happens when the city takes properties like through a foreclosure process, we provide that list to the municipal insurer. And so they're insured as whatever they want to insure them as, vacant properties or not vacant properties. With all the weirdness around this one, I would have to double check to see if it would be covered, but I will do that in the morning just to be sure. But, hopefully we'll get it out and sold and back on the tax rolls soon.
So the eviction is not to recover any kind of monetary, it's just to get the property back.
It is just to get the property back.
Oh, right.
Any other questions from the council members? Anything from the public? Okay, thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Next up is police department.
Good evening, everyone. Well, nice people back here. Hi, Luann. How are you? Good. This is the mandatory, I don't know where to stand.
Close to the owl, please, so they can hear you.
He was projecting.
Is that okay? This is the mandatory section 9 reporting for everybody. It's an exciting and thrilling month in law enforcement. Glad to report to you.
Thank you.
Yes, the color cartridge came through.
Really pops up.
So, am I okay right here? Mr.
Yeah.
President?
Can anybody on there hear him?
Hello. So, since we last met, the reporting, of course, the randomized 120 body camera videos were reviewed and sent to the mayor's office for any kind of incidents of malfeasance by the officers and reviewed. This is the section 9 reporting that came out of the police reform. And we are glad to say in the month of February, there was no use of force by the officers. Hence, there was no duty to intervene pursuant to the executive order. We had 48 arrests, which is below average, for a total of 70 charges. 9 reports of emotionally disturbed people, which is a little above average. What's interesting about that, when I looked into it, it was 9 different locations, no 2 were in the same location, let's say like this 7th Street Park, it's spread across the city. And thankfully, there was no instances of drug overdoses. And then you'll see attached to that is a delineation of all the different charges, and you'll see there was an uptick in trespass charges, which has to do with the influx of unsheltered people, vagrants or whatever, that are in the city that were charged with trespass. There are various locations throughout the city. That's the only anomaly or uptick in any of those charges that you see. So be reviewed, and office is available to anyone have any questions about that. Going through the month, right here in our firehouse, on February 16th, we had the HR training for me and the clerk, where we went over FMLA and ADA compliance, COVID, different rules regarding COVID. A bad thing to report that we did not prepare for was on February 20th, our radios went out. And we did an inspection of the radio equipment, which is on top of CMH. And I don't know if anyone's ever been on top of CMH, it's the best view in the city. If you don't go check out our antennas, right? But the equipment's 25 to 30 years old and it went out. So I don't know much about the technical aspect of it, but I know one technicality is going to cost $7,677 to repair. Has to do with the repeater and the new antenna and replacement. It was not budgeted. So I will prepare a resolution for you guys for the next formal meeting in which to put the funding through. Repairs have been placed. Nick Piro's here putting on his police hat now. If anyone has any technical questions, but I guess is it fully repaired or there's a stopgap right now?
No, right now we have loaner equipment from Pittsfield Communications that they put in because they couldn't even temporarily repair what was there. They did one night, they were there at midnight. I called them, they came out, they got it repaired. It lasted 36 hours and then the whole system went down again. Called them back. They put a temporary, one of their repeaters in, got us back up and working for a couple more days. Then they had to come back and put a temporary antenna up. Without that, we can't talk portable to portable around the city.
Which part of the building is it on?
It's facing the city.
This first time this ever happened?
Yeah, I mean, I've been there almost 20 years with my dispatcher time and we've never had to touch the system up there. It's just old. I mean, we're guessing 25 to 30 years. There's a good chance it's probably older than that.
Are we sure that there was no damage? Because remember, it was like last summer, the lightning strike and the transformer blew, because that actually impacted some of the other antennas up there. I mean,
Yeah.
I only suggest that because it's like insurance money to.
We really haven't had any issues since then.
Sooner than though.
Yeah, this so up inside the building was actually 2 radios with a polyphaser. It's actually a cheap way of doing a repeater system, which was done years and years ago. And that just finally failed. The guy that Pittsfield that's doing it, when he went up there, he's like, I haven't seen these radios for decades. That's how old they are. And then the antenna, just with age and connections, just decided to fail. We actually had the antenna hooked up to the loaner repeater, and it still wasn't working correctly. So we're up temporarily. Everything has been ordered because it could take months to come in. So they loaned us all the equipment to use to obviously keep us up and running, because without it, our guys could only talk from inside the car to the station. Once they get out of the car, the portable won't reach more than a block or 2 without the repeater. Just the way radio frequencies work, so.
But I think what's important for you guys to know is that because of certain protocols in place and because Nick was on the job there, that police coverage, public safety was never impinged. We were able to get through it all. We don't count on something like this happening too often, but in no time, through multiple police dispatch and portable radios and car radios, in no time were we unable to answer our calls.
I actually heard it at home that it wasn't hitting the repeater, because I can tell just because I listen to the radio all the time. Heard it wasn't hitting it, made a phone call, called into dispatch, and they said, yeah, we can't hear the guys on the portable. Made a call to Pittsfield, they came right in. They were here within 3 hours, and got us back up and running temporarily, and then we've worked with them, and everything that's purchased is on state contract, so it wasn't anything crazy.
Nick, that $7,000, does that include the new, whatever grade wiring, the antenna, the repeater, and the maintenance, the work to do it?
Yes, yep, that was, yep, antenna
That's a
cable,
very good price.
repeater, installation, and I believe the emergency call in the one night may have been in that price. I don't remember. That was like $660. And then the second time they come out, it was everything's included in that. If the 660's in it, I don't
No,
remember.
it's not, that's.
So there was an extra 660 for the midnight call that we had to get back up and running, and everything else that they've done, including the temporary fix, is all included in the price that the chief put forward.
Seeing that it is a very old system and we're putting a newer system in conjunction with it, is this new fix going to be warranted for a certain period, or is this kind of like?
There's I don't know if they have an extended warranty. It's a 2-year warranty, which is standard with Motorola. I don't know what an extended warranty would cost on that equipment. Something I can ask tomorrow and find out. We could always add that if need be, but.
And I assume the power for the antenna is hooked up to same power system as the hospital?
Yeah, well,
Generator?
yes, yeah, it's all on generator backup. It's never made, like, we've never lost communication because the hospital went out with power. That's always up. The radios are always running. There's backup power supplies as well up in the room.
Yeah.
That operates all the other antennas. We did speak with the hospital. They're also allowing us to go up 20 to 30 feet in height, which is also going to help our range throughout the city. I mean, just with this stuff, I was in training when we were having the issues and they put the temporary stuff in. You can never hear anything. Not that we go to I-90 a lot. I go to the lab, which is in Albany, but I could actually hear our guys talking while I was on I-90, which I was never able to do. So just with this loaner equipment, it's definitely better. And once our stuff is in and we get some higher height with the antenna, we're definitely gonna be in really good shape.
Are there like backup options just in case, like in the future, like, I mean, maybe this just isn't up to like protocol for security and communication or something like that, but I know like portable shortwave radios are super cheap, and just if anything were to go out again, at least that would give you like a 2 to 3 mile radius.
Yeah, so with the county and Rob Lopez, I was actually on the phone with him, actually before I even called Pittsfield. They have a temporary setup that we could use if it went down for a longer period of time. Today's H2 cell phones, guys,
Yeah.
we're like, hey, for right now, until Pittsfield gets here, have your cell phone on you. If there's an issue, the dispatcher can at least, reach you. But the guys talking portable to portable works, it's just the long range on the portable because the portable is only 20 or 25 watts. So without hitting the repeater, it doesn't have the ability to, with all the buildings, it just doesn't work.
Sure.
But if they're in a straight shot, like road to inside the building, the portables work, so.
Any other questions from council members? The public? Any questions?
Questions to the chief?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I don't know, they were.
No, well,
So about these trespassings, we're having 19.
Yeah.
So this is because the weather is cold, so people go in where?
No, I think this correlates to some people that had come through town and have a couple drifters we had, let's call it, for lack of a better term. We had an incident, a couple incidents, and the weather was good in February, better than what we have now in March. So it does have partially plays in it, but there's a few emotionally disturbed people in town that we have not seen before.
But do we have a shelter here? I mean, we're gonna have horrible weather tomorrow, so we should advise.
That's a usual question about code blue and stuff. We will always bring someone into the station and have, and then we will find them a place to stay. Lieutenant Miller, not that long ago, took someone from a bad storm to a hotel provided by social services. We've had people stay in our lobby and.
Fire station also gonna be available?
Yeah, always, yeah, anytime. We have usually standing orders in case of bad weather to check for unsheltered people where we normally could find them. And then if they have no other place to go, we will bring it back to the station and have done so. So, no problem there. So anyway, Nick did a lot on this radio business. I'm not an expert on it. I'm pretty sure he made up that polyphaser thing. But it makes sense, it sounded good to me. But I thank him, and I don't know what we'd do without him. Just to move on, to get through this, we had around, hang on a second. On February 17th, we had a meeting over at the school regarding the threat of gun violence. Brought together all of law enforcement, school officials. It was a good meeting. It was basically resolved to really get some lines of communications opened up. There was some concerns about the information getting out, you know, when there's a threat of school violence. And I think that some of that information was firmed up, you know, to try to get it out to the people, because I think the mayor's office, the city hall, I'm sure was being, a lot of people calling in what's going on at the school. So it was a good, productive meeting. On March 6th, the troopers, with our troopers case, but we did assist on it. They removed a major drug dealer from our city. They were able to seize 1 kilogram of cocaine, which is $20,000 street value before it's whacked up, 5 times that once it's distributed retail. 300 grams of cocaine at the residence, and $30,000 in cash, and 2 stolen handguns. So I think that'll temporarily disrupt some of the drug trafficking in our city. There was a major investigation on residence on Lower Columbia Street. On March 8th, we had a meeting at Questar to talk to criminal justice overseers there. They have criminal, very, very good. Anthony Pirro runs a very good criminal justice program over at Questar. So we're glad to meet with them over there. And we have an internship program where we have the kids come over and work with us. And then lastly, today was an important day in the Hudson Police history in that we swore in new officer Zach Morris, who we're sending off to the academy on Monday. I think everyone's going to like him, nice young man. And we promoted John Moranti to the rank of detective. So it was a good month for HPD, and look forward to better weather.
Related to our Mr. Moranti.
Never heard of that. I'm an only child.
Any questions from the council members? Public? Well, thank you, Chief. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Again, appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. And last but not least, Mr. Rob Perry. Rob, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here until I get booted. So what are we gonna do here? Share screen. Okay, so we have septage from January was $28,446, which starts off the new year relatively decent. Some of the maintenance we started doing because it's not really that cold out, so we don't have to worry about the diffusers freezing. So we did have one of the digesters pumped down, cleaned, and backed out. So that's that. And and we also submitted our annual flow certification to DEC, and we've complied with all of our regulations for the year. Going to water, we talked about the leaks last month, and so over the last month or so, we've been working earnestly to find as many and cut them off. So this is a valve that was leaking from the bonnet bolts and the packing that was taken apart and rebuilt. So that's no longer leaking. I think that was on State Street somewhere. This was a service, an old copper service that was leaking on Fairview Avenue, and it was estimated at 12,000 gallons a day. And
Yeah.
what the culprit was this, the water, there's an old seal in here that was probably original, it was 100 years old. And the water was going around actually eating the nut that was right there. So it would have eventually blown, and it was actually draining into like a rocky area below. We also had a leak over on 3rd Street, and because it was so close to high pressure blow off, that Recon, who
Uh-oh.
Yep, Putin.
Huh? Yeah. I guess we'll wait and see if Ron can get back on. Hope you didn't kick an accident.
I just said it's still revenge. I didn't see her over there. I was like, who are you waving to?
I would text Ron.
He's probably still going on with the presentation. Something right now.
Okay, why don't we move along, see if Rob doesn't come back, we can have him give his report at the formal meeting. Let's go to resolutions. Shaheem, are you with me? Shaheem? There we go. Okay. The first resolution is approving the firefighter listing pursuant to the service award program. This is a listing that they submit every year, and we make contributions to a very small fund for their retirement. Can I have an introduction in a second?
I will introduce.
I'll second. Brian and Arthur. The second resolution is urging the New York State Assembly to pass and Governor Hochul to sign the Build Public Renewables Act. And we have someone here who submitted this resolution to me, and I approved it going forward. Mr. Bill Galvin, Esquire.
Thank you. Councilors, as an introduction to this resolution, let me just say that back in 2019, the New York State government passed the CLCPA, which stands for the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. And that act, which has been passed into law, requires that New York State use all of its electricity carbon-free by 2040 and 70% carbon-free by 2030, which is only 7 years away. And the CLCPA set up those markers, but didn't give a way to get there. And since that time, there's been no legislation to effectively make those goals a reality. So there's the Build Public Renewables Act, which has passed the Senate. It's right now before the House, which is why I'm only asking for the council to urge the Assembly to pass and Governor Hochul to sign it. New York only gets about 5% of its electricity from wind and solar, only 29% from all kinds of renewable energy. So we really don't have enough renewable energy to meet those goals. And there's really no plan out there to make a just transition to renewable energy. And so one major solution to it is to pass the Build Public Renewables Act, which enables the New York Power Authority to build and own new renewable electricity generation projects. NYPA is the very largest public power provider in the country. It already provides 25% of all of New York's energy, and 88% of that is renewable hydroelectric power. But the problem is that the law says that the New York Power Authority can't build or own any more than 6 renewable projects over 25 megawatts. So the Build Public Renewables Act is to remove that restriction on the New York Power Authority. And the Build Public Renewables Act allows the New York Power Authority to build larger scale facilities quickly, affordably, and democratically than private developers can, and to guarantee that we meet the guidelines of CLCPA. And to that end, that's why I'm asking this body to.
Can I, oh, sorry, can I have an introduction? Oh, geez. Ryan, and a second, Arthur. Okay, well, we don't vote on this tonight, but if you want to come back and if they have questions.
I have a question.
Oh, right now, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, just a question.
Sure, sure.
Was the thinking originally with the CLCPA, or as the law currently stands, that we keep the New York Power, like, would we keep NYPA out of the market to incentivize private investment? Is that, and that private investment isn't happening right now, and so we're trying to say like, well, we need NYPA to step in and fill that void?
The CLCPA just set the goalposts, didn't give any means.
Sure.
And so in a lot of ways, it was a way for those legislators to wave the green flag, but to do nothing.
Yeah, sure. Election year, right?
There you go.
Well, Bill, I got 2 solar generators on my house, so I'm starting.
Very good. Well, I'm just curious, like, what the argument would even be to not allow New York's largest energy provider to not build these large power, like, projects? Like, what, like,
I think you hit it on the head. It is
it's just to incentivize.
incentivize public, public enterprise, so
Right.
private enterprise.
And now they're like, interest rates are up. I don't
Right.
know. Yeah, we can wait for the next plan. Sure. Cool.
The energy lobby is very powerful.
So I
Yes,
didn't
sir.
know how many people would be here today, so, but I have a Build Public Renewables Act, a couple of copies of his cheat sheet that I will hand to the president, and
Thank you. Oh, okay. Thank you, Bill. We'll vote on that next week. And this is I'll circulate this
Is
as
this
well.
what we have online already?
I think so. Rob Perry is back by popular demand. Rob, want to continue your presentation?
Somebody's got to stop sharing so I can.
Oh, Shaheen, can you take it down, please? There you go.
What happened? Oh, give me a break.
You can share.
Actually, that's a good point.
Yeah, Shaheen can share it for you. It might be easier for you, Bob. That's what he's doing. Really. No, those are us.
Where is it? I don't know. I can see it on my computer. I don't know where the hell it is here. I guess Shaheem, if you can put it up, I don't. I can see it on my computer, but I can't see it to share. If you have it.
Ah, there we go.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to the next page. It's mine, it's up. Okay. So yeah, so this number 5 was we were near high pressure gas valves down blow off down on 3rd and Columbia. So Recon, who's a subcontractor for Grid, comes and uses a heavy duty vac truck to remove all the material. And they actually, if you look at the hole in number 6, that was actually all done with that by that vac truck. And that way you don't have to use buckets or shovels to dig. If you go down to the next one, thank you. So picture 7, that was the leak that was repaired with the sleeve. It was a crack around the main. But even though there was a ton of water blowing out, none of it was coming out of the street. None of it was visible anywhere. It turns out the culprit, which is not what I put the X over, but down in the hole, there's a sewer main that had a cracked hub. And so the water was blowing out of the broken water main and going right into the sewer system. So we were able to diminish lost water coming out and actually flow to the sewer plant at the same time. You want to go to the next? We have submitted our annual water quality review. That will be on the website pretty soon. But we have, just as a brief overview, our system is in compliance with all applicable state drinking water operating, monitoring, and reporting requirements. So we're completely in requirement, and we'll get that up on the website as soon as I have a final copy. This is just another, because tonight's a little snow event forecast. So this happens to be 8th Street, which only moves 1 day a week. And you can see the issue that it creates is that some of the cars don't move. You get these windrows, and I think the other street is 9, looks like it's maybe State Street. But that's why we have alternating, so that way we don't have to have snow emergencies every time we get a couple inches of snow. Down to Promenade Hill Park, the next picture. So some have seen these signs here. It's a good news, bad news thing. The good news is we have $400,000 worth of quarried bluestone that was part of this project. The bad news is, the other stones are architectural stones. They're actually, fabricated, and the ramps are concrete, but these stones are not tolerant of salt. So we have to, when there's snow, close them off, and then, because we can't salt them to make them non-slippery like we do everything else. And you still have access, through the plaza and up along the ramps, but, we don't want to put $400,000 worth of stone and then end up damaging them, in the first couple of years for sure. We have been, if you want to move down, thank you. So these two here, we contracted with a local arborist, and they've been giving our crew some consultation as to how to cut back some of these branches. A lot of it is they get damaged by delivery trucks and such, and certainly they damage our equipment, because between the street sweeper and our plows, and so everything gets close to the curb. So we went through a couple $1,000s in mirrors last year. And so once they're cut, and we have a chipper right in place, so all the pieces that come down go right into the chipper. You want to go to the next one? So a little shared services story. The county has a stump grinder, so they sent a crew member over with their equipment, and just trying to clean up some of the steps from the felled trees. And if you want to go down to the next one, we have some trees have come down because we cut them because they were dead, which you'll see in 16. 17 came down in the last storm with some wet, heavy snow. We anticipate some tree damage with this storm as well. But we have the chipper's been serviced, so we're ready to go with that. Now, as up the Ferry Street Bridge. So the good news is we finally have signed utility agreements between National Grid and Amtrak. So we have them for both the gas main and the electric. So that, which was a very, very long, much more than it needed to be processed, is now complete. So at this point, what we have to do is we're putting together, now that we have an actual date, we're putting together the final contract documents for New York State DOT. We expect to send them off with all the signed copies and stamped copies this week. At that point, DOT has to perform a final quality review, which we don't believe takes long. It typically doesn't take long because they've already reviewed this thing 6 or 7 times. It's just punch list stuff. So we hope that DOT will give us authorization by the end of the month to let this contract. And once that happens, we'll put it out to bid. It has to be a minimum of 30 days. So we looked at, if we advertise in April, opening in June or May, mid-May, late May, to make sure we meet those minimum days for advertising. Then the engineer has to review to make sure all the components are right. Hopefully we should be able to give an award by mid-June. And at that point, We know that there's an extensive lead time with the bridge of this size, so I don't think you would see construction starting this year, but hopefully if you can get something in 4 to 5 months, then we'll definitely want to start as soon as we can, but we know the lead time on the truss is going to be a while. It's a substantial piece, obviously, and so they want to minimize the time over the tracks because that keeps our force accounts down. And that's all I've got.
Questions from council members?
Quick question,
Vicky.
Rob, about that, you said the promenade, it's a special kind of material that you cannot use salt, right?
Right.
Can we snow blow the steps so people can go up? And
Well,
enjoy it?
even if you snow blow them, we always salt behind it because the snow blow doesn't clean straight to the surface. It's just an inconvenience. Listen, we got a $2 million park. It's beautiful. People just gonna have to walk around the little serpentine area. They'll still get to the top, and then once we can get it so we can get the nature to hit it with some sunshine, and we'll take the signs down.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Any other council members?
I kind of have a question in the same line. It's, I think it's great that you guys are taking the to preserve the city and the private-public partnership investment in that beautiful park that we did. Was that decision kind of to use a stone that's not, was that just kind of overlooked, or, because I'm thinking that.
No, it's a physical characteristic of the stone that the architect recommended. And I brought that up to the architect's attention that, we do use salt, and, this was kind of the compromise to realize that you're going to have a beautiful park, except, you're going to have some snow on it a couple days a year.
Right. The only thing is to protect that stone from wearing out over the many years that we expect this.
That stone is 40,000 PSI. It'll be here when the dinosaurs come back.
No, I just mean if the salt is gonna get into the water, it's gonna run into the stone. Is there any way we could try to mitigate maybe like temporary dams or something like that?
Well, there's perimeter drains around the plaza.
I
So
see.
whatever, yeah, that was all taken into consideration. So we shouldn't have a problem there. It's just about applying salt directly to it and then having people step on it and kind of work its way into it. That's what we don't want.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions from the council members?
Yeah, well, we just,
Okay.
Rob, how you doing, man? We just want to thank you and Mr. Bujan and whoever else was involved with putting up that. Mr. Bujan, I'm sorry. Excuse me, sir. Apologize.
Thank you.
Because there is, there was a.
Right, okay, yep, that's what the mix-up was, but definitely appreciate you guys putting that sign up.
Okay, man.
Much safer.
Okay,
Thank you.
Public questions? I don't see any hands. Peter, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, thank you. Just thanks to everyone. Thanks for having a special meeting to keep that project moving, City Hall ADA. Appreciate it.
Welcome. Okay, back to the resolutions, please, Shane. The school tax one, number 3. Either explain this to us all. Can I have an introduction and a second? Brian and yes, all right there. And Jeff. Oh, excuse me. We're pulling number 4, so go to number 5, please. Family. This is adopting the Family Leave Act policy, which you've all been sent. Oh, wow.
Great. Just remember 15. I'll send you an email.
If you don't get it tonight, you'll get it tomorrow.
You're the
Just
best.
waiting on ad figures.
Right, always. Mwah. Thank you.
Right.
Good night, Mrs. Mosley.
Can I have an introduction and a second, please?
He just did.
Are you first?
He first.
No. Arthur.
You giving up?
And Ryan.
And council
Okay.
and like.
The next resolution, this is interesting. It's an easement for some airspace next to City Hall.
Deny.
Because the people who are putting up a building next to City Hall, I believe are putting in one of those,
Rooftop compressor.
no.
Condenser.
Yeah, the connection, it goes on the side of the building.
Oh,
So you're just looking for, an easement.
speech base.
So kind of an introduction to the second building.
But the air rights are to get above the 80 feet to install it, like they're not,
No, they're actually putting the thing on the side of the building.
okay.
So it's gonna be over anyone that's walking on that area.
It's gonna be what?
That unit's going to be over anybody walking in that
Correct.
small walkway.
Well, no one walks there.
I've walked.
I walk there.
No, it's not that side, it's the other side.
Oh, the other side, okay.
Yeah, that's kind of.
But that is temporary, it's not permanent.
That's funny.
Permanent?
That's on a residence, right?
It's mixed.
Just to clarify, the easement is temporary because it'll allow the city to come in and change it if necessary moving forward, but while the condenser's there, it's essentially permanent. Unless the circumstances change and the city needs to require it to come out for some reason.
Thank you, Crystal. I don't think it has to.
I just wondering about like water drip or anything like that in between the buildings, rots the brick or whatever.
Historic, did they have to go to historic?
Is it visible?
No.
Yeah, not our concern.
Okay.
Really, I mean, I guess that would be up to the code enforcement officer to
Correct.
tell them that.
Correct.
So Ryan and Arthur again. And lastly, we have senior center donations. One and second.
Arthur.
Okay, that's all of our official business. Any council members like to, thank you, Cheyenne.
I got a quick question, because I
Okay.
know going through resolutions about our special meeting. Is there any update on the integration of security measures, reinforcements during this city hall? Has there, my understanding, it was gonna be done together, hardening the city hall for the staff. Is there any plans on doing that?
Well, I wouldn't know that. Let's see. You mean, I'm not sure, you're saying, do the plans include better safety for the workers?
Yeah, right, it's supposed to be reinforced glass, doors.
Well, let's ask Peter Budano, who's supervising the project. Peter?
That is not part of this project. This is specifically ADA improvements with the specific scope that went out. That security glass, et cetera, was not part of this specification.
Because I remember asking, I guess, like for Michael, because I remember asking Michael way back, I don't remember, I want to ask Michael, and they said they're gonna combine it, the time frame because of, being together and they were gonna work it together, the needs, because what they do now, someone's gonna come in and say, you might need something different, so I don't want to reinvent the wheel, something that we could do in the same time. Especially when it comes to reinforcing the doors and the counter space.
Dominic, is there any incidents that leads us to believe that might be a necessity, or is it just kind of?
Yeah, there's everybody in that, there were, I think, 9 people in that building had a restraining order against the same person.
To do that, it's possible to do that. We just have to have a consultant come and do an evaluation, someone that specializes in security, fixtures, et cetera. But that can be done, but it is not part, just so you know, it is not part of this scope that's being worked on right now.
Peter, is there any way you can just touch base with Michael? Because I know Michael was kind of leading this security upgrade. So can you touch base with Michael and just see how we could, what we need to make something happen?
Sure. Michael Hoffman, you're referring to, correct?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, I will do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions from council members?
Any news?
Correct. What?
News or questions?
You have announcements?
2 more days till the events stuff is in. You wanna?
Oh, okay, March 15th, if applications for the events committee are due on the 15th. 2 days from now.
Thank you.
Public, there are some public members out there. Any questions? Or comments? Okay, I guess that's it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Oh, wow. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you all.